Well, good evening and welcome to the fastest half hour in the cryptid world, This Week in Bigfoot, the news show that scours the internet and the Bigfoot community each and every week to bring you the people, places, and stories making headlines around the Bigfoot world. Then we take it and wrap it up in a nice, neat 30-minute package. If it has to do with Sasquatch, Bigfoot, or the Wildman, trust me, we've got you covered. Here's what we're looking at for this week's show. Hunting season and Bigfoot sightings, what's the connection? We'll look at why so many encounters happen when Bigfoot and hunters cross paths in the woods. Mike Luci breaks down Bigfoot sightings and moon phases for us. Snowwalker heads south of the border for a brand new 2 minutes with, and a small bookstore and cornerstone of the Bigfoot community is lost to flames. These stories and more Bigfoot news than you could probably really handle, so you better buckle up and settle in and hit that subscribe button because we're going to get at it. You ready? Let's go.
911, what are you reporting?
He's walking upright like a man.
With someone or something crawling around out here.
But he went back up the mountain.
Get somebody out there.
What's going on now, sir?
That son of a bitch is about 6'9", I don't know. He's all black and big. He is big.
As the Northeast eagerly awaits the arrival of deer hunting season, hunters, both seasoned and newcomers, prepare to head into the forests. We lead off this week by looking into the eyewitness accounts of deer hunters when it comes to Bigfoot, and explore why the arrival of hunters into the forests and Bigfoot's nocturnal habits might actually lead to these encounters. Seasoned deer hunters are renowned for their dedication, often hitting the woods well before sunrise. I know I do, I know my buddies do. And as these hunters silently navigate the dimly lit forest, feeling of solitude may occasionally be disrupted by a sense of not being alone or a fleeting glimpse of a shadowy figure. Could this be Bigfoot heading back from its nightly activities, crossing paths with hunters? According to reports, Bigfoot is believed to be primarily nocturnal, choosing to hunt and do whatever they do at night. This nocturnal inclination aligns perfectly with the schedules of many deer hunters, who favor dawn and dusk hunting, prime times when deer are most active. As hunters set up their blinds and climb into their tree stands in the pre-dawn hours, some might inadvertently intrude on a Bigfoot as they're returning from a successful night of hunting.
See what I can find here. Something down there. Doesn't look like a deer. I can't tell what it is.
Similar to early mornings, deer hunters often remain concealed within the woods long after sunset, hoping to bag that elusive trophy buck that comes out to feed or to mate. For instance, in New York State, it's legal to hunt 30 minutes prior and 30 minutes past both sunrise and sunset. It's during this twilight period that some hunters have reported the most unsettling encounters with Bigfoot. The creature, perhaps on its way out for its nighttime activities, sometimes crosses paths with these hunters, leading to eerie and unforgettable experiences that become the stuff of campfire tales. The convergence of deer hunting season with Bigfoot's nocturnal habits raises a few questions. Are the hunters unknowingly encountering the creature during its transition from day to night or night to day? Or could these encounters just simply be a result of Bigfoot's curiosity about the yearly trespassers into its environment? As deer hunters eagerly await the arrival of hunting season, they may soon find themselves immersed in more than just hunting for venison or a Boone and Crockett monster. They may actually run across a Bigfoot. It happens all the time. The reports are full of them. Tales of these encounters add a captivating layer to the tradition of deer hunting, leaving hunters with stories that will be cherished and passed down for generations. With the increasing number of people venturing deeper into the woods each year for deer season, the chances of encountering a Bigfoot are higher than ever, only contributing to the enduring mystique of the northeastern wilderness.
Can the moon tell us when we're most likely to have a potential Bigfoot encounter? With most sightings seeming to happen at night, this proposition might have some legs to it. I used our go-to source, the BFRO public database, to pull some very specific information on this analysis. I used 50 recent Class A reports that had an exact date, with the day, month, and year in each case. We need this information to help identify which phase the moon was in during each sighting, which is why I think we should first explain how the lunar cycle works. It takes the moon about 29 nights to orbit the Earth, during which it goes into 4 quarterly phases that each last about 7.4 nights. The waxing crescent, the waxing gibbous, the waning gibbous, and waning crescent, in that order. Each lunar phase's transition is respectively signified by a new moon for the first quarter, a half moon, commonly called the first quarter, for its second phase, a full moon for the third quarter, and last quarter, i.e. another half moon for the fourth one. It's important to note that each phase's transitional marker only happens one night, since they technically only last for a couple of seconds. My analysis of the data produced 3 main takeaways. Right away, I noticed there were considerably more sightings in the lunar cycle's first 2 quarters, with 29 happening during the moon's waxing crescent and gibbous phases, so 58% of the 50 sightings I examined. The second takeaway isn't particularly groundbreaking, but reiterates some of the monthly and seasonal trends among Bigfoot reports, with 30 out of 50 sightings happening in the fall and summer months. While they're spread out a lot thinner in this regard, the majority of sightings still occur during the moon's first 2 quarters across all 4 seasons. The largest distinction was during the fall months, where sightings in quarters 1 and 2 had a 2-to-1 ratio when compared to sightings in quarters 3 and 4. Lastly, out of the lunar cycle's 29.6-day duration, I gathered 8 reports on nights when there's a transition between phases, so nights when you had your new, half, and full moons. When you compare the 8 sightings happening on these 4 nights with those 42 other reports happening in the remaining 25.6 nights, it shows that sightings are 18% more likely to happen on nights where there's a new, half, or full moon than at any other point in the lunar cycle. Not much of a game changer, but definitely enough to give you a potential edge. Now, given how thin our sample size of this data disperses in the analysis's more comprehensive parts, it looks like 50 reports probably wasn't enough to get a precise reading. As it currently stands, though, it's seeming that you're more likely to see a Bigfoot during the lunar cycle's first 2 quarters, especially in the fall months, and on nights of a transition between lunar phases. Again, we probably need a larger sample size to get more context on this, but I think we're on the right track for learning how the moon can potentially boost our odds at catching a glimpse of the big guy.
I'd like to extend our sincere gratitude to the NASA Administrator for entrusting us with this pivotal study. Your faith in our capabilities has been a driving force behind the panel's approach.
The National Aeronautics and Space Administration released their Unidentified Anomalous Phenomena Independent Study report last week, leading some to question if the report was tied to the recent controversy surrounding the so-called alien bodies recently introduced to Mexico's Congress. In the report, members of NASA's UAP Independent Study Team recommended that the agency play a more active role in the government's efforts to understand the UAP situation.
The current approach to UAP data collection has led to a limited sample of events and limited data. Stigma has limited reporting by pilots, both civilian and military, so we know there's missing data.
Furthermore, the report stated that the agency should take advantage of its existing Earth-observing assets, satellites, space stations, and other stuff. They've been up there since 1967, for Christ's sake.
Engine full power, and liftoff. Go Falcon, go Dragon, go Crew 7.
Endurance ascends, an international crew destined for the International Space Station.
By lending its name to the UAP studies, NASA is already helping reduce the stigma associated with reporting UAPs. The report also recommended that NASA develop a crowdsourcing system such as smartphone-based apps to gather photos and videos from the public as part of a wider effort to gather public UAP reports. Believe it or not, this report marks the first for NASA into UFO investigations and should excite anyone who's called for the agency to take a more active role. However, there are some in the UFO community who question the timing of NASA's report due to its release during the controversy surrounding the two supposed alien bodies shown to Mexico's Congress earlier last week. The bodies were presented by journalist and UFO enthusiast Jaime Maussan as part of a congressional hearing on UFOs in Mexico. Many might remember Maussan as the man behind the infamous Roswell slides of 2015. In which a photograph of an indigenous boy's remains taken in the Colorado Museum were presented as proof of extraterrestrial life. The so-called alien bodies were also reminiscent of the infamous Nazca mummies, promoted through the New Age network Gaia's documentary, Unearthing Nazca, in 2017. Although represented by Gaia and Maussan as alien, a 2017 report from the Paleo DNA Lab at Lakehead University, Ontario, Canada, showed that the DNA samples taken from one of the Peruvian mummies was totally 100% matched to human DNA. Now, some of the UFO community are calling into questioning the timing of these two events and wondering if these easily debunked claims made by Maussan, I mean, look at these creatures right here, are meant to distract us from more impactful news being delivered by NASA now or in the near future. Think about that. Could these just be a distraction from some real hard-hitting news yet to come?
Are we in a recession for Bigfoot content? I found a whole thread on the Bigfoot subreddit that dove into this particular topic. The thread was posted by Redditor SS Troop earlier this month, who lamented over how low quality they believe Bigfoot-related content has gotten in the last 6 to 10 years. He also looked for input on what people are tuning into nowadays, saying how the number of video aggregators seems to be getting smaller, while quality documentaries have also dwindled. Commenters gave mixed responses on whether or not they agreed, along with what they considered to be good content. Some comments said they believed the subject was impossible to search on YouTube because any quality videos were probably being buried by the YouTube algorithm. To their point, others felt there were too many red herrings on the internet and believed you're better off going back into history where you can read about accounts from before the internet turned people into attention-seeking lunatics. Their words, not mine. Lots of comments cited the epidemic of hoaxes plaguing this field as a major driver for a recession in Bigfoot-related content, something we previously covered on the show a few times. Some believe hoaxing is so bad it prevents any dedicated research from being taken seriously, and a few Redditors also noted how hoaxing could be a contributing factor preventing people with actual encounters from speaking up about their experiences for fear of being ridiculed or taken seriously. Other comments pointed out how the abundance of fake videos might not bode well for Bigfoot's existence, especially considering how everyone has an HD camera nowadays, while game cameras are much cheaper and way more abundant. As a result, it's getting harder to come up with reasons for the blurry photos and why nobody still hasn't captured a clear, indisputable image. Some comments even had a simpler explanation for the supposed recession, that Bigfoot simply isn't real, with all the aforementioned reasons being huge contributors to point to its non-existence. So despite these main reasons, some of the more hopeful comments cited a number of shows and documentaries they deem quality content. Of course, the more household names like Thinker Thunker, How to Hunt, and Sasquatch Chronicles were all mentioned. Other prominent outlets like Small Town Monsters, Bob Gimlin, and Mountain Beast Mysteries were also brought up, along with some up-and-coming documentaries like Legend Meets Science 2. The concerns over a recession in original or quality Bigfoot-related content are understandable, and while we try reporting the news on the show through an impartial lens, if there's one takeaway I personally get from doing what I do on it, it's that there really is no shortage of content in this field if you're sometimes willing to look a little harder and dig a little deeper to find it. While these worries are ultimately a matter of opinion, maybe what these people probably need is an adequate, reliable source to help them sift through all the monotony and fakery, in essence what we do on this show, and help narrow down where to find the fresh, original quality content this community still has to offer.
Well, it's that time, folks. You better check your watches. We are halfway through episode 29, which can only mean one thing. It's the part of the show where we give content creator Michael Merchant, you know him, Snowwalker Prime, Screen time to speak his mind and get what's ever bothering him off his chest. God only knows what he's talking about this week. Here he is now. This is 2 Minutes With.
Echo Station 3PA. Just spotted an aerial walker. Aerial walker. Echo Station 3PA. Just spotted an aerial walker. Aerial walker.
What does Bigfoot say when he wins at bingo? He says bingo like everybody else. Why would he say something different?
Have you seen the mummified aliens from Peru?
I thought you were only interested in Bigfoot.
No, chickens, aliens, and Bigfoot. 3 subjects that I'm interested in. What say you?
This is a joke, right?
No, none of my stuff's a joke. I'm dead serious. They're ancient mummies, over 1,000 years old.
And how do you know this?
Well, that's the estimation by the journalist.
A journalist, not a scientist.
Well, the reviews from the scientists are mixed.
By mixed, you mean they think it's a bunch of malarkey.
I don't know if malarkey was the exact term used, but it's hotly debated. Let's put it that way. Apparently, they were smuggled out of Peru.
So who did the smuggling?
Nobody knows. It's a secret, anonymous owner that owns the mummified remains.
Look, somebody has to take these mummies and sample them and look to see if they have DNA or what they're made out of.
No, we can't do that.
Why can we not do that?
The owner doesn't want the bodies damaged.
Well, that's convenient.
What did the T-Rex say to the Velociraptor? Well, he didn't say anything. They don't talk. And they're extinct.
We don't want to damage these priceless mummies. Alien mummies. How often do you come across alien mummies?
That's my point exactly.
You never come across alien mummies. You just don't.
Well, we do now.
I have photographic proof and video.
Look how ridiculous they look. They look like some doll that somebody dusted in flour.
And that's his pregame ritual.
It's 1,000 years of accumulated material. They're 1,000 years old.
Nobody knows that. They're just guessing. Nobody's radiocarbon dated them yet.
But when they do, they'll find out they're 1,000 years old.
Oh, good grief.
I would have thought you would have been happy. These are physical remains. You keep saying you want evidence. How much more evidence do you want than 2 whole bodies? Not 1, 2. And they got them in glass cases. There was a press release.
Haven't you seen E.T.? These mummies
look exactly like the E.T. mummy. With 3 fingers, just like the E.T. mummy.
Your argument for the validity of these things is to compare them to a Hollywood movie?
They look just like the E.T. mummy.
That doesn't establish the validity. That establishes the opposite. E.T. was fake. You know that, right?
I wanna touch you. Yes, it was a Hollywood movie, but it looks just like the alien mummies. I don't know why you're so critical. You can't possibly know that these aren't real. How would you know that? You have no way of telling. They could be real. It could be real alien mummies, and you're scoffing at them.
Look at them. They look like dolls. Papier-mâché dolls.
How do you know that's not what aliens look like?
How do you know it is?
Just saying, they look an awful lot like the E.T. from the movie.
We've covered this. That's not grounds for the validity of these things. That's an argument for the opposite.
Just saying, they look a lot like the E.T. Look, I just have one thing to say to you. 3 fingers.
Yes, they have 3 fingers.
Occam's razor. Occam's razor, sir.
I don't think you're using...
Do you know of any humans with 3 fingers?
Well, no, I don't.
Aha! You don't know of anybody with 3 fingers.
Where are you going with this? Is it more likely
you don't know of humans with 3 fingers and they gotta be aliens? Proof they're aliens.
That's not how Occam's razor works.
You just don't want to admit that there's real aliens because they got 3 fingers, just like E.T.
The fact they have 3 fingers doesn't mean they're alien mummies. They just made 3 fingers.
But you would admit it's unlikely that they're human.
Yeah, it's extremely unlikely.
Aha!
Finally, proof of real aliens. 3 fingers.
Bigfoot wife was complaining that he's gaining weight. And he says, give me a break. I got a lot on my plate. Have you ever been camping? It's intense. I think Bigfoot might be a genius. I asked him what 2 minus 2 was, and he said nothing.
Bigfoot Books, a small bookstore nestled in the heart of Bigfoot country on the Trinity Highway, a stone's throw from Willow Creek, California, has been much more than a simple bookstore featuring rare and gently used books. For the last 20 plus years, it has become the unofficial clubhouse for the Bigfoot community and its followers in Northern California. Owned and operated by Stephen Strufert, an avid book scout, ferocious reader, and founder of the Coalition for Critical Thinking Facebook group. On September 1st, just before Labor Day, the well-known bookstore and hub of the Bigfoot community was lost to flames. Strufert, who was forced to take up residence in the store due to the sale of his cabin and the lack of income due to the pandemic, it wiped out a lot of people, managed to make it to the front porch just before being overcome by smoke, collapsing just steps away from safety. Fortunately, a passing California Highway patrolman spotted Stephen and pulled him to safety. Strufert was taken away in an ambulance, unconscious and suffering from smoke inhalation. Stephen was eventually released from the hospital and is doing fine along with his cat Mittens, so thank God for that. The building unfortunately was unable to be saved, with thousands of books and Bigfoot memories lost forever. We here at This Week in Bigfoot have always believed in doing what we can when we can for our friends in the Bigfoot community, whether it's raising awareness for a project or helping to raise funds for something like, well, Legend Meets Science 2. Over my short career in the Bigfoot world, Stephen and I have become quite close as both friends and colleagues within the Bigfoot community. I've come to respect and value his opinions, his hard-nosed approach to Bigfoot evidence, and his wealth of knowledge on things like, well, Bluff Creek. And if you look closely at the end of the show, you'll see him in the credits as he's listed as one of the creative consultants for the series. That being said, it's time to open up your hearts and your wallets and help get Bigfoot Books up and running. Michael Wayne, a longtime friend of Stephen's, has set up a GoFundMe page for everyone willing to donate and help get Stephen and Bigfoot Books back in business. While no amount of money will help replace the personal items and memories lost in the fire, it can help get the healing process started and hopefully Stephen into a new location. We here at the show have donated, and I hope you decide to do the same like you did for Doug Highcheck and the Legend Meets Science 2 project. It meant a lot to Doug to get the project off the ground, and we couldn't have done it without you. So to help Stephen and Bigfoot Books get back in business, and I hope you do, I hope you have it in your heart, visit GoFundMe.com and search Bigfoot Books Bookstore. Now, put yourself in Stephen's shoes for just one moment. If you had lost everything you had in a fire with no insurance, wouldn't you want us and our show and our viewers to do everything we can to help get you back on your feet? Think about that. Now, if you know somebody within the Bigfoot community that's trying to raise vital funds for, say, a project or medical bills, please let us know by reaching out at thisweekinbigfootnewscast@gmail.com.
Hey, this is Chuck Larson. You're watching the CARC channel on YouTube.
Alright, got another Factor Hoaxed update. Back in episode 17, I did something on this footage taken in Rock County, Wisconsin.
You don't see it out there moving. Pull up this little bit. There we go. Fucking things out there in the middle of the cat.
I managed to get in touch with the video's original poster, justme_Chris, who we'll refer to as Chris moving forward, and Wisconsin DNR in Rock County, who provided me with some very useful information. We'll start with Chris's response. Chris said he only visited the lake once, during the winter when everything was frozen no less. He said he didn't know exactly where on the lake his father could have been when filming, and on the grass's potential height, Chris did say, quote, "I do remember he said the reeds were pretty tall. They already had some length in the water, and whatever this was towering over them." If you saw my original segment on this footage in episode 17, I mentioned how getting the grass's height could help figure out the figure in question's height. And this is how the response from Wisconsin DNR really helped. I emailed them a still shot from the video and asked if they knew where exactly along the shoreline this footage was filmed, what type of grass that was, and how tall that grass might grow. Wisconsin DNR said they believe this video was taken at the lake's boat launch. This was the only place where the sidewalk bent like that you could see at the bottom of the video, and they also believe the footage was filmed facing east. They didn't know for sure, but guessed the reeds were probably cattails or canary grass, which they said could grow about 3 to 6 feet tall. They also reiterated Rock County doesn't get many bear reports, with the most recent one happening this past June. So as this Google Earth snapshot of the exact area shows, boom, we see exactly what the email described. A quick measurement shows Chris's father probably filmed the figure at a distance of roughly 1,300 feet, so quarter mile, give or take. According to the survey map of Store Lake, the reeds don't even appear to be in water. So let's see how that can help us get some height measurements for the reeds and in turn our figure. So it looks like these dark brown areas below the grass could be solid ground. I did my best trying to find a patch of grass that parallels where the figure might be standing and got a measurement of 84 units for our grass's height. From what parts of the figure were visible, I got a measurement of 48 units, meaning it's just over 57% taller than the reeds it's standing in, whose height we're assuming is 3 to 6 feet tall. So if we multiply those numbers by 1.57, we get a range of 4.71 to 9.42 feet, with the median figure slightly over 7 feet. Now, Chris did say his father mentioned how tall the reeds looked, and that the figure towered over them, in case you need more of a reason to go with the higher part of our height range. But especially when you consider the extraordinary margin of error this crudely done analysis probably has, I don't think we can rule anything out, since a bear, human, and Squatch all fall within this height range we calculated. I want to thank JustMe_Chris and Wisconsin DNR for their help, and definitely let us know if you can add anything to this analysis. While we still don't know for sure, I hope this at least gives you a sense of how to go about trying to calculate height ranges in this kind of footage. So remember to give the original episode 17 segment a watch, take this new information into account, and decide for yourself if what we have here is fact or hoax.
Looking things out there in the middle of the cattails.
Have you had a Class A Bigfoot sighting and want to be on Legend Meets Science too? Then maybe Doug Highcheck is looking for you. Doug is looking for 2 good Class A compelling Bigfoot witnesses as volunteers willing to be regressed using hypnotism by a trained PhD in psychology for the Legend Meets Science 2 film. So you will be filmed, but they will protect your identity if you want that, so don't worry about that. They're doing this in order to try to extract more information about your sighting and to see how regression hypnotism may be used as a future scientific tool. Now, along with filming the hypnotism, they will also be reenacting your sighting there. So you will be flown round trip to Minnesota for 2 days. You will have ground transportation to pick you up at the airport, get you to the hotel, take care of all your expenses. You'll do your hypnotism, you do your sighting, and then they'll fly you back home. Now, if this sounds like a good deal for you, I want you to reach out to Doug directly at doug@untoldradioam.com. Now, in the email, be very specific and relate the highlights of your encounter in the email, along with a phone number, a good contact phone number that Doug can reach you at. Your identity will be concealed if you want it to be. So now that sounds like a kick-ass deal. I wish I had a Class A sighting, because I'd be all over that. So stay tuned here for more Legend Meets Science 2 updates. After all, This Week in Bigfoot is the only place you can find them. Time to bring you up to speed on a couple of recent Bigfoot podcasts and live streams. First in the box, it's the Squatch Watchers. Bigfoot investigators almost attacked and eaten, does that say eaten? By a giant unidentified creature. Check it out.
So I'm just going up to get the gate. And something right here, I mean, is going 8 nuts berserk growling. And I don't mean like, I think I heard something. Stop in your tracks and like, whoa, I'm fixing to get eat by something. We're locked in. Who are you like? You keep that, yeah. So that's not about, I mean. Oh, wow, you got your gun. Whatever this is very aggressive. I don't mean, like, I think I heard this. Deep, visceral, very ominous growl.
Next up, it's Bigfoot and Gary, episode 58. Did you see that? In Gary's latest upload, the highly followed researcher wanders through the forest, listening for and hearing some far-off distant calls. See if you can hear what Gary hears. Check it out. And batting cleanup this week and making its debut on the show, it's Hellbent Holler, searching for Bigfoot in South Carolina. Here, Joe and the lovely Jessie Lee return to the dark corner as they explore an old logging road and capture someone or something on their thermal cam. Let's roll it.
My heart's just pumping right now. I got something.
What do you got?
I don't know. I'm getting the heat.
Big, little?
Heat's digging to...
You filming it?
Yeah, of course. Can't tell. What are you? That's big.
It's big?
It's big. I don't know what it is. It's big. What is that? It's here.
I cannot believe we are more than halfway through the month of September, and Bigfoot conferences continue to draw in record crowds from coast to coast. With that being said, there's still only one guy we all turn to keep us up to speed on the who's, the what's, and the where's, and you know it, it's Chuck Larson with another great show in this week's Spotlight. Minnesota Bigfoot Conference, October 7th, Grand Rapids, Minnesota. Conference Spotlight.
The Minnesota Bigfoot Conference is this week's Conference Spotlight, hosted by the Minnesota Bigfoot Research Team, happening Saturday, October 7th in Grand Rapids, Minnesota. For tickets, you can go to eventbrite.com. Cost is $30, or you can buy them at the door, day out, for $40. There's a 3-day VIP package available, which includes dinner with the speakers and a night hike on Friday, October 6th, front row seats for the event on Saturday and access to a Q&A speaker breakfast on Sunday the 8th. Speakers for the event will be David Ellis, Dr. Esteban Sarmiento, and Doug Highchak. Also, the Sasquatch Legend Meets Science 2 documentary crew will be filming at this event. This is a family-friendly event, so come on out to the Timberlake Lodge and Hotel in Grand Rapids and have a fantastic time. For more information, you can go to mnbrt.com for the conference Facebook page. And that's this week's Conference Spotlight. Brendon, back to you.
All right, folks, it looks like once again, unfortunately, we are all out of time for this week's show. I'd like to thank you for watching and remind you got to like and share everything we do here at the Catskill Appalachian Research Collective. Tell your friends, spread the word, help the show. And if you have any questions or comments, or maybe a story for the show, you can always drop us a line at thisweekinbigfootnewscast@gmail.com. So, for Mike Luci and Chuck Larson, I'm Brendon Brown, reminding you that when it comes to getting your Bigfoot news, remember, be informed, not biased. Take care. See you next week.